All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Carolina Weather Group. It's 8:40 here on Wednesday, April 29th of 2020. And I see a notification that we are live here. So that's good. That means James taught us the right way to do things. Evan, we did it. Yay.
We did it. It took a little bit of work, but we figured it out.
Well, maybe. I see that we're on the Carolina Weather Group. I don't see that we're streaming on other pages. So I'm going to hand it off to you, let you kind of give a brief summary, and I'll see if I can get us restreaming on the other pages.
Alrighty. So currently we are looking at two lines of storms moving through the Carolinas. They're going to slowly progress eastward over the evening and into the overnight hours. And truthfully, it's going to be moving pretty slow compared to what we were looking at last week, where the storms rushed across the Carolinas and exited off the coast by 8 or 9 a.m. Tomorrow morning, 8 or 9 a.m., these storms are just going to be east of Raleigh. So it's not going to be quite as much forward movement as last week. But I'll go ahead and share my screen to give you an idea of where we are currently with the storms. Zooming out a little bit, you can see that the majority of the heavy rain and precipitation and a few thunderstorms here and there is draped across the western parts of North and South Carolina. Heaviest stuff in North Carolina is covering, well, pretty much everywhere in the mountains and foothills. There's this little bit of a dry slot over portions of Oconee and Anderson County, and even a little bit of Greenville County in South Carolina. But even still, you can see this long stream of very heavy precipitation. We aren't seeing any flood warnings issued quite yet, but there is a flash flood watch out at the moment for, flash flooding, as these storms can potentially produce 1 to 3 inches of rain per hour if you get stuck underneath one of these training areas of showers. Now I'm going to switch over a little bit and I'll stop this share. And it is a good reminder to say that at the moment we have no severe warnings issued. We did have one tornado warning earlier down in Anderson County, but it pretty quickly expired. So this is what we're going to be looking at through the evening hours. Currently we are roughly, what time is it? It is 9 p.m. So we're somewhere around here. I don't feel like doing the math in my head. But you can see with the precipitation drifted across west parts of the Carolinas, and as we march through the night and we start to approach midnight here, we're moving east, it's going to be starting to push into Charlotte, and you're going to see some of that early lighter rain, even pushing into portions of Raleigh. Columbia, you're going to be getting in on some of the showers. And there's several of these really small, but they can produce some quick, heavy downpours straight over the rest of even the eastern Carolinas all the way to the coastal plain. So by midnight, most areas will be seeing some form of precipitation. If not, at least it'll be cloudy. And then we'll progress 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6, 7. So now we're roughly at daybreak. Tomorrow morning, as the sun is coming up, South Carolina, hopefully west of Columbia, you'll be in the clear. Charlotte west, you'll be in the clear, but areas such as Raleigh, you'll still be looking down the barrel of the main line as it's coming through. Wilmington, it'll be approaching shortly. Fayetteville, you'll be about in the thick of it. So sunrise tomorrow morning, the areas that I just mentioned, that's when you can kind of expect arrival time for the storms. And then as we progress through the morning, they will start to head offshore, maybe a little bit of a flare up in activity, especially over the North Carolina coastal plain, near the Outer Banks, as we get some diurnal heating and some destabilization of the atmosphere. And along with that, still a slight flooding risk. But for most of the Carolinas, the severe threat is more limited than we've seen in the past few weeks. And we had dozens and dozens of tornado warnings since April 1st. I believe, Scott, you remind me of the exact number for all the local offices you were saying before the show?
From GSP, Columbia, Raleigh, and the Blacksburg office has been 88 tornado warnings from January 1st to April 29th, 2020 right now.
Wow. Yeah, so it's been busy, and we added another one onto that earlier this evening. But hopefully tonight we'll be looking at more of a damaging wind risk, maybe some straight line wind damage versus the QLCS type tornadoes that we've seen the past 2 to 3 weeks. Now, that's not to say that there's no tornado risk. That certainly is still there, although it is much lower than it has been. But straight line winds, we're going to be looking at that. But flooding is another big issue tonight for many areas, and parts of the Western Carolinas have already seen upwards of an inch or more of precipitation since 4 or 5 p.m. today. So if you go over to the Weather Prediction Center and we're going to look at some precip totals over the next 30 hours, this is generally what you can expect as a precip move east and off the Carolinas. So by the time it is exited out into the Atlantic, this is going to be your final totals. So if you want to, pinpoint exactly where you are on this map, then you can see exactly how much you're going to expect. But in general, western parts of the Carolinas, anywhere from 1 to 3, maybe even plus inches. Some areas, you see right along the Blue Ridge Escarpment, that there are some areas of 3 to possibly even 4 inches. It's going to max of 3.5. We get these little microclimates in there that can just really wring out all the moisture in the atmosphere. So those are the areas that we're really most concerned about for flooding. But even looking east into the coastal plain, see where as tomorrow, as some of the instability increases, you can see you might actually have some more semi-discrete cells in the line as it progresses east, and that's kind of evident in these swaths of heavier precipitation. So maybe we could say another 1 to 3 inches east of Charlotte. Now, the low spot in the Carolinas for precipitation is really going to be down to the south and west of Charleston and just below Orangeburg is right there. So that's where we may only see, half an inch of rain as this line kind of fizzles and doesn't quite bring the precipitation all the way down into the southernmost tip of South Carolina. But nonetheless, areas like Myrtle Beach still 1 to 2, possibly 2+ inches. So we're worried about flooding. We're going to be keeping an eye on that all night. If flash flood warnings are issued, we'll certainly be posting those on social media. And if we have any type of flash flood emergency, we'll definitely be going live for that, as well as if there are any severe warnings that end up popping up, particularly tornado warnings, we'll be going live. And Scotty, just kind of to take a look at the more broad picture, it's going to be warm this weekend. It's been a very chilly and kind of raw week, or almost even 2 weeks now in the Carolinas. But looking at Sunday afternoon, if you look at the 2-meter temperature anomalies across the Carolinas, widespread 5 to 10 degrees above normal. That's going to translate to highs in the 70s and 80s across the entire Carolinas. I don't know about you, but I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be beautiful.
I am stoked for the temperatures return to the 80s. And I personally think it's been kind of chilly over the last month. And I know that's a good thing for those who have maybe heating and air. You've not had to use the air conditioner or the heater much. But yeah, I'm stoked for the temperatures to come back into the 80s this weekend. Definitely looking forward to that. And it doesn't look like we're going to have any storms associated with it. So there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Evan, I hate to tell you, as you started off tonight, we lost connection. So I'm going to kind of recap what you've talked about. We got back to the flooding part. So the severe weather part, which you may have not heard Evan talking about just because of my error. There is that potential to see a couple of line of storms move through. Currently, the first one moving now into the Charlotte metro, into the Piedmont areas. There's going to be a second line developing now in North Georgia that will continue to push through North Carolina into the Midlands around, I think we're looking around 3-4 a.m. Yeah. 3-4 a.m. and then eventually push off into the Piedmont and the coastal plain around 9 a.m. So we'll have to watch those areas tomorrow morning where the sun's coming up, a little bit more instability to work with. Evan, I know you and I were talking earlier. There's not a lot of instability to work with tonight, but that doesn't mean that the squall line can't produce some gustier winds. And like we saw earlier this evening in Anderson County, a brief tornado warning down there. In fact, the Weather Service did get a report of some trees down inside that polygon. So not saying a tornado touchdown, but there was at least some wind damage in that report, in that polygon. This is the Cape numbers. You can see the Cape, not really impressive until you get down to the coastal plain area tomorrow morning. So not to say that we're not going to see any severe weather. We are in that marginal risk, 5% chance of some damaging winds, 2% chance of an isolated tornado. And you may hear 5%, 2%. Oh, those odds aren't high, and they're really not. But it's a little bit different than like a 2% chance of rain or a 5% chance of rain. So it's just kind of 2 times the chance of seeing a tornado develop inside of a storm. So definitely the potential for some spin up tornadoes tonight. But if I had to classify, Evan, and I think we'd agree with this. The flood threat's the main concern, and then damaging wind, and then the tornado threat. And there's not really much of a hail threat this evening in the overnight hours. So definitely watching the stream with you guys. If you're watching, chime in. If you have any questions, would be able to answer them. Normally we're doing a show tonight, but if you followed along with us over the last month or so, we've been hitting shows hard over the last month. So we're just kind of doing some severe weather coverage tonight. Evan's got the radar up right now. You can see just a lot of rain in the western North Carolina area. Some more storms developing over South Carolina into the Greenville-Anderson area. Again, not anything too ominous right now. No severe thunderstorm warnings out or tornado warnings, but definitely something to watch. And Evan, with those wind gusts, some areas approaching an inch of rain already, especially in the foothills and the mountains of North Carolina. Any winds over 40, 45 miles per hour, any of those gusts could definitely bring down some trees and maybe even cause some sporadic power outages tonight. So just be mindful of that as well. But it's been a very busy month in the severe weather department. Not sure if you caught the stat earlier. Evan was talking about 88 tornado warnings within western North Carolina, the Midlands of South Carolina, upstate South Carolina, and eastern North Carolina. So that's a lot of tornado warnings. That's definitely more than what the people out in Oklahoma and Kansas have seen. Obviously, Mississippi, Alabama has been hammered with them, in Louisiana, but North Carolina, South Carolina up there as well. So, Evan, you got some wind products pulled up. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so I was kind of watching this little area down in southwestern North Carolina. Actually, I'll flip back over to some reflectivity data real quick, just so we can circle it and kind of get an idea of what we're looking at before we move over and look at the wind products. But I am looking at this little cell right in here. It's bowing just a little bit, and I guess that line kind of extends even further down too. But it's bowing a little bit. It's moving pretty rapidly northeast, northeast, really, heading up towards Asheville. And I think that could be signs of potentially that a second line starting to form and head up into Asheville. So we've already had heavier rains earlier in the evening as the first line moved through. But this could potentially be that second line forming. And I want to zoom in here. I guess I won't be able to zoom in since I was drawing, but I want to flip back over at least to the velocity data. So you can see, we'll go ahead and take the drawing off. This is a storm we're watching at the moment for a severe risk, damaging winds, slight potential for a quick spin up tornado. It doesn't look like there's any rotation in there at all, maybe just some straight line winds, and even then doesn't look to be severe. So that's why there's no warning on it at the moment. And looking out over the rest of the area, no tornado warnings, no severe thunderstorm warnings, really not many signs of rotation either. So that's a good sign, Scotty. That's what we like to see. We don't want to be seeing radar images like we saw 2 weeks ago moving into Seneca or other areas. Tonight, there's nothing like that. And we have a warning-free radar, which is a true blessing.
That is some good news. There's something that I've been watching. I'm going to pull up my screen for just a second. This is in the out of the Columbia radar. So this is a little cell right here, just south of Ridge Spring. It kind of looks more ominous on radar, but as you can see, the velocity products. There's a little broad rotation in that area, but nothing too major. This is going to be along. Let's see, what is that? Highway 1, I believe, moving into the Lexington and then eventually into Richland County into the Columbia area. So we'll watch that. There's another little cell over Augusta that's, we'll kind of watch. It's these more individual cells out ahead of this main line is the ones you want to watch that could produce a quick spin up just because they have a little bit more ability to work with more of the dynamics in the atmosphere. Once you get into kind of this line of storms, there's not as much inflow, outflow notches, things like that to monitor. So we'll monitor these little cells in South Carolina and the Midlands. And in fact, this area a little bit more ripe for severe weather than you would see up into the North Carolina area. But again, a good news, Columbia radar is back up. So that's good. I was going to say Cleveland. I was like, we're not in Ohio, but the Columbia radar is back up. Looking, there is a flood advisory up for portions of the upstate into Greenville County. I think even portions of Spartanburg County in that severe or that flood warning. In fact, you can see right here, kind of just that far little western end of Spartanburg County. And that flood advisory goes until 11:45 this evening. There you can see the damage and wind report. This is from that earlier tornado warnings polygon that was in Anderson County. So there was some trees down, but no substantial damage to any structures or anything like that. So that's some good news. And then we got some flood advisories up here in the East Tennessee mountains, bordering North Carolina. And Evan probably wouldn't be surprised to see some more flood advisories issued for at least the mountain communities. And in fact, a flash flood watch up for mountain communities in western North Carolina and even portions of the northern foothills of Caldwell, Burke, and McDowell County. So that's what's going on there. You can see a river flood warning there in eastern Tennessee as well. So like you said, not much going on right now. There's a little bit of lightning here showing up in Macon and Jackson County in North Carolina, and we can put the radar back on and kind of show you. Well, I'm at the Columbia. Let's get to the Greenville. It'll take just a few seconds for the data to load in. But look at these temperatures here. I mean, 50 degrees, 52. You're not going to get a lot of severe weather with temperatures in that. So that's kind of depicting that second line that Evan was talking about moving into the southwestern portions of North Carolina. So again, Evan, hopefully you and I have a recording to do with our friends in Wilmington. So we're hoping as this weather gets to the east of us, it doesn't really get cranked up and going too bad because we want to keep our guests lined up for tomorrow's taping of a show. So, but again, that concern does exist for eastern North Carolina, the northeast portions of South Carolina, kind of the coastal areas once this line slowly moves through the area. One other thing I want to show you right quick, and then I'll toss it back over to you, Evan. We'll look at some of the rainfall products here, kind of show you what's going on over the past 12 hours. You can kind of get an idea of how much rain has fallen. So you look here in the mountains, little ledges down here. So you're looking anywhere between 1 inch to 1.25 inches here in the Brevard area. As you get into the greater Asheville area, you're looking at about 0.7 of an inch. Up here into the northern foothills where the Blue Ridge Escarpment is, we kind of see in this flow, the southeast flow, we kind of see that moisture bank up against the mountains, and it kind of wrings out all the moisture that the atmosphere has in it. So we normally do see some higher rainfall totals right in this area where the flash flood watch is. And in fact, in northern McDowell County, northern Burke counties, we're reaching close to 1 inch of rain over the last couple of hours. We can go over the last hour here, and anywhere between 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of rain. So, but you can kind of see where these heavier tracks are. You can kind of see that track right there. It's producing about 3 to 4/10 of an inch of rain. You can kind of see where this edge of the rainfall has got to, just moving into the Charlotte area. So those are just some things we're watching. Here's the rotation tracker. This is the one we were talking about here in Aiken County. So it's showing a little bit of broad rotation, going back to that tornado threat. So we'll watch that, but nothing too concerning with that, Evan. So all in all, a pretty quiet radar besides the heavy rain.
Yep, absolutely. A whole lot of moisture transport happening over the Carolinas. Pretty high precipitable water values in the range of 1.3 to 1.6. So flooding threat is definitely real. We'll keep monitoring it through the night, and hopefully we don't have to break in and tell you that there's severe storms coming. But if there are, we'll certainly be here to let you know. Remember, you can always tune in to our Twitter account at Carolina WxGroup or Carolina Weather Group on Facebook. We'll keep you up to date with warnings and places that we're worried about and watching throughout the night and into upcoming weeks and months. Yeah.
Definitely so. Monitoring you guys, there's like 70 people watching right now. So if you have any questions, we're here for the next couple of minutes. we'd love to answer any if you have any. Just watching on our stream here, so I'm not sure. It may be just a little bit delayed from what I'm seeing to what you're hearing. But again, just have a way to get warnings tonight if any were to be issued. As you go to bed, make sure the WEA alerts on your phones are on. If you have a weather radio, make sure it's on. That way, if something was to go out, you'd be able to get alerted of that if you were asleep or something like that. But again, the severe weather threat pretty low, but it is there, so we'll continue to monitor that, like Evan said. And I guess if you guys have no questions, we'll go ahead and end the in this update.
If you do have any questions and you didn't get it in before we ended the stream, tweet at us, hit us up on Facebook, and we'll go ahead and respond promptly.
Definitely so. So thank you guys for watching. We enjoy your company tonight. Hopefully you are able to enjoy this kind of rainy weather. And it's good sleeping weather, so hopefully you can get some good rest tonight. And we will be here to continue. Just looking, the SPC continues the marginal risk for all of the Carolinas tonight. So that's a good sign that it's not been upgraded to slight or anything like that. So we'll take that good news as well. So we'll be here monitoring the conditions. Like Evan said, if you have any questions, feel free to tweet at us or leave us a message here on Facebook, and we'll get back to you. So for everyone here at the Carolina Weather Group, for Evan Fisher, I'm Scotty Powell. Have a great evening.